Welcome to the Amazon Legends podcast, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became powerful sellers, also experts specializing in helping sellers, and both former and current Amazon employees who will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here's your host, Nick Urison.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today spent years developing online games before he became a private label Amazon seller. He's in multiple categories, but his specialty tends to be toys. And he also runs a training program called Freedom Hackers for Amazon sellers. So he's teaching everybody the tricks of the trade that made him successful. So when he's not working, he's in a band, or used to be in a band. He's a musician and plays the guitar and synthesizer. With that, everybody, meet my guest, Toni and Raehalme. Welcome to the show, Toni.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So online games to Amazon, I guess Amazon is like almost a game, right? Because you got numbers to play with, and the only difference is you make money in the process if you are lucky.
Exactly, and it's a game with rules, and you need to know the rules. Otherwise, it's gonna be game over, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, game over. Something we are familiar with. So yeah. You developed a methodology for product launches, and it's a little bit different than what everybody else does. So share with us what your methodology is on new product launches.
Yes, so our methodology is that we don't focus on the product.
So you want to sell products, but you don't focus on the products. So you must
exactly.
Focus on else. So tell us what their approach is.
So our approach is to focus on keywords and having with different parameters.
Okay, I see. So this brings me to something I always say, and anybody listens to the podcast would have heard. Amazon is not a marketplace of products, but Amazon is a marketplace of keywords, right? So you are hunting for keywords, except that it's not as simple. So tell us more. How are you using that approach?
So exactly, I mean, Amazon is a search engine, and we don't go there to sell our product. We instead find out that what are people buying, and where we find the customers first, and then figure out what to sell them.
And how are you figuring that out? What makes one keyword different than the other keyword that's relevant to the product you want to sell?
Yes, so we have a list of specific criteria that we look for. So this criteria includes different things, but first of all, it's all about the demand and what kind of is it like? What is there room for us to be? And what kind of differentiation you can do there.
So these rules that obviously it's different for different categories, right? So we cannot generalize, but the approach is the same approach. So there are different tools out there for helping people do product research. And those tools usually require exactly, some filters to be applied so that you can come up with something that works for you. So share with us, what is the criteria that you apply, and give us the numbers. For example, if it's reviews, up to what would be a good way to use it?
Sure thing. And one thing to really understand first as the foundation of everything is this product life cycle. When a new product enters the market, there's first this introduction phase, and then growth, and then eventually like maturity. And after that point, it's going to be either declining or expansion, meaning that expansion means there's some kind of other new version or new feature or something like this. So we actually want to catch these products in the early phase. So when it's still in the introduction, before we even go to growth. So one thing how we look for this on Amazon is that we find keywords that have like at least or less than 300 or 100 listings. So when you search for a certain criteria, there has to be, I would say the maximum is like 500 listings, but ideally less than that. So less than 300 or less than 100 like product listings. So that means that there's different sellers selling on that keyword.
So this is, so you, when you are hunting for these keywords, you are not going with a specific keyword to see how many listings there are. You are simply going in and saying, give me the keywords that have listings of no more than 300. Is that the case?
Well, I mean, there's many ways how to do that, and we don't only rely on tools. It's also something that you can do like, I mean, manually, just browsing Amazon and just see that, okay, what are the like new releases popping up and what are different kinds of upcoming things. But I would say that also another like really important criteria for us is the like time to market. So how quickly can we test something out? So if we see an opportunity here that, hey, I mean, this keyword is popping up, then how like, what kind of effort is it going to take into like test something out on that given keyword? And our method is really like that we call as like low risk and low budget. That's pretty much our method.
So you're finding the keywords based on the number of listings. So are you going category by category, or are you going completely wide?
Well, most of the time we are focusing on the brands and the categories that we already sell on. But when we are doing research, we are not so limited to specific categories, because it's always pops the question that, I mean, we are looking to also launch like new brands, so that can be in different categories. So we are not so fixated on specific categories. It's pretty wide that we can go. But when we are talking about low risk, that also means that we avoid like certain products that are going to can be complicated, or there can be certain issues, or they're just too bulky, or anything that will make it longer or make it requires higher budget in order to test out the idea.
Okay, so you mentioned low risk and low budget. What makes something low risk?
Well, I would say like low risk means because if you think about kind of the old school method of like launching private label products, I mean, it means that, okay, you find your product and then you start developing it, and then you source it from China, and you spend all this time in packaging and everything, and it can easily take like several months before you get the product on Amazon. So, and usually it means that you're going to be ordering at least hundreds of units and maybe even 1,000 units. So that means that it's going to be requiring a bigger budget, or I mean, at least thousands of dollars. And then you make your like ranking campaign and launch campaign and everything. And if anything goes wrong during that ranking campaign, let's say that you get a 1-star review, then it can pretty much like kill your whole part opportunity there.
So I understand, but how are you dealing with that? So what is it that you're doing different, where you don't have to manufacture so many units and then build the whole research on keywords and the titles and the bullets and the pictures, whatever you're creating on Amazon is going to take time. So what makes it low risk for you when you go after a product?
So our constraint that we have given ourselves is that we have to get it live, the product live, in matter of weeks instead of months. So then we have to get creative with that. Okay, I mean, we are not going to be sourcing this from China. So what are other ways how we can quickly test out the idea? And that also means that we are not going to be ordering like hundreds and hundreds of units. No, we could actually just order some 10, 20, maybe like maximum 50 units just to gather data and just to understand more that is this actually a good product opportunity, and is this something that we should put more effort and more money into it. So it's basically this gradual process that we first test out that, okay, is this working? And if it starts working, then we order just like larger, like maybe bigger orders, and gradually increase the effort.
Mm-hmm. So this almost is like software launch, right? So when you launch software, your version 1 is the version you never had to apologize for because it's going to be full of bugs. But then you have the opportunity to release a new version and another one. So that way, the key is to be quick with your new releases. So you seem to be taking the similar approach where you do your research on keywords, and then once you figure out keywords that will give you the least amount of competition, and you can then get that item manufactured in the US quickly for a small number of units, then you launch it. Is that pretty much what you are doing?
Yes, exactly. And actually, my background is in IT, in software development. So, I mean, doing these incremental like launches, that's definitely something that applies to us as well. So, yeah, I mean, because the constraint is that we are not like allowed, our team is not allowed to use like months and months in order to get the product live. So often it means that, hey, let's start looking like how, if we are not sourcing this from China, then how could we actually get something live on Amazon to test it out? And sometimes it means that, okay, let's just buy these and these items from a store, and it actually fits this keyword, so we are able to gather more data.
Okay, so I want to really dig into this because you are proposing something that can be dangerous also, because you are now talking about quickly getting something made up, which means that you're not going to take too much time with quality control, and that the way it looks and the way it works and how it's packaged and things like that. So let's assume that you do that and you find product. For starters, it's not going to be competitively priced. So you are prepared to take a loss on that initial batch of sales. Is that right?
Yes. So I mean, when we are talking about just tens of different units, then first of all, it's not going to cost that much, because typically, I mean, the price range where we are selling the products that we are looking at, I mean, it's going to be over $30, but it's not going to be like more than, I mean, more than 100. So we basically, I mean, take those products live and kind of like see what happens and see what's the response is, and so on.
Okay, so you launch the product, and it's not something that has gone through your typical life cycle of doing quality control and preparing the specs and other things that you would otherwise put into the effort. And you get bad reviews. You're more likely to get bad reviews, no? What is your experience?
I mean, since we are talking about only on like tens of units, we haven't had a case where we would have issues with like quality issues. But let's say that we get like bad reviews, then I mean it gives us the opportunity to learn from that and then actually fix all these issues on the real launch that we are going to be doing.
I see. Okay. All right, that makes sense, because you never know at the end of the day, right? When you launch a product, you can put months and months of efforts into it, you think is the best product, and you're still gonna get reviews that are not very kind.
Yeah. Sometimes you get bad reviews just because the customers don't like your product.
Yeah. And also there are some reviewers who are overzealous. They take the videos and they write long reviews, and then okay. Let's go back to your research. So what is an ideal price point for you usually to be going after when you're doing keyword?
Well, typically we look at the selling price is over $30. So if it's less than $30, then I mean it's the margins can be more thin and it gives less opportunity in advertising, marketing, and so on.
Okay, so price point is $30, and the keyword, the competing listings no more than 300. And what else? When you go after your ideal product, what kind of reviews are you hunting for? Or is it, do you care how many reviews those 300 other listings have? Or what is an ideal number for you to be taking on?
Well, I think, I mean, for us, the key question is always like when we see that here's a like good keyword and so on. So the key question is that, is there space for us in the first page? So what does it mean that is there like enough room for us? Is like, can we actually differentiate from all the other listings and the existing sellers? What kind of how good quality are they, and are we actually able to provide more value to customers? So one thing that we want to avoid is saturation. So let's say that it's a product where every single seller is just on the first page has added like everything imaginable to the product, and the images are really good, their packaging is really good, then we probably shouldn't go there. But let's say that there's just one or two sellers that are doing like really good job, but the other sellers are not, then that's something to consider.
I see. So you're not really doing, if you like, an automated research where you are getting a bunch of listings and then you're cross-referencing. You are actually going in and manually looking at the listings that are on the first page for those keywords, looking at the pictures, looking at their pricing and what kind of value they are offering, and you're trying to figure out opportunities, gaps, so to speak, available. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think it's not enough just to blindly stare at some like using some tools and just spill out the numbers. That I mean, it also requires that you actually look on the page and figure out that what's happening on the page, like how many newcomers there are, and what's the quality of all these sellers, and is this like a trend that is going up, or is it already reached this growth or maturity and eventually like saturation period? Because if it's saturated, then I mean that's pretty much the worst place to be, right? You don't want to enter a cutthroat business.
Okay. And what is saturation for you? So let's say, because you don't really know, as far as, let's say that a few keywords, you picked up a few keywords and you're looking at the listings. And what does saturation look like?
That there are too many sellers that are really, too many good sellers, pretty much, that there's first of all like too many of those, and then secondly they are doing really good job with their listings, with their like value that they give with the product. So that means that the product might have some different like add-ons, and the branding looks really good, and everything else. So and eventually, I mean, that also means that they're going to be having lots of reviews usually.
Okay, so when you do your research with a specific keyword, if you are seeing too many sellers and these sellers have thousands of reviews, a good category to give as example would be supplements, right? So if you ever want to launch a supplement and you look at all the others, they have like thousands of reviews. So how are you going to launch and then go up against them, right?
Right, exactly. So that means that, so I mean, you can compete with those other sellers, but I mean, it's going to be pretty costly. So do you have budget to compete with all these different sellers?
Okay, so now I have another question as far as limiting your launch inventory. So you mentioned that you have 10, 20, 30, 50 units, whatever. That's all you launch with. However, as you know, you need orders in order to rank up on a keyword. So orders come from reviews, reviews come from orders. So you got that initial hump of trying to put the listing on the radar screen, so to speak, and then rank up. So you may run out of inventory. So what happens if you are halfway through ranking up and everything is going right? But because you launch with a limited amount of inventory, how do you deal with that challenge?
So one thing that is important to understand that this is like considered as the test. I mean, it's pretty much like you could call it as a pre-launch. So sometimes it happens that, I mean, the information that we get from this test is that, okay, I mean, it doesn't make sense to continue with that. So, I mean, let's just focus on something else. But when the case is that, I mean, everything looks good, then we are going to be moving on to the more traditional approach that we are going to be making a bigger order. We are going to be doing like increasing value of the product in many ways, and also doing like impressive packaging and really good branding and all those things. But then that also means that it's going to be a new version, like completely different version, which also means that we are then going to be creating a new listing.
I see. That was going to be my next question, because okay. So you get something out there, which means that you're going to issue a UPC for it. So you're going to create a brand new ASIN, and then you just launch it just to see what the reaction is. Once you have some traction on it, then you know, okay, there is an opportunity here. Now we can build up a proper manufacturing operation around it, get better value, better packaging, and then you issue a new UPC and create a brand new listing. Is that right?
Exactly. So then it means that even when something goes wrong with the listing, like we get like negative reviews, but I mean, if those are things that we can fix, and if it still looks a good opportunity, then it doesn't ruin the actual proper launch that we are going to be doing later on.
I see. So the other question I have for you in this approach is, do you create that new listing as a variation, or do you make it totally separate?
Well, it depends on the case, because if it makes sense that we still want to have the old listing, then we could do like variation. But typically, it's the case that, I mean, we are just going to be doing a completely different listing.
Okay,
so
because you may have 10, 15, 20 reviews, especially if you enroll in the Vine program for Amazon on new launches. For a $30 price point, you can afford to give away the product. So they will give you 30 reviews included in the cost of the program. So 30 reviews is 30 reviews. So
Yeah.
what I usually recommend my clients is launch with a product, and then once you create a different version of it, a newer version, or just simply create packs or bundles or whatever the case may be, add them to the same listing as a variation, but create a parent. So that way everything comes under one SKU, and then you have the old one still there. But because now you have them all under one parent, you can have the reviews consolidated. So that way all that effort that you made collecting reviews doesn't go to waste. And of course, at any point in time, you can phase out the old one and it's no longer available, but the new one would be available, but you would inherit the reviews. So what do you think about that approach?
Yes, in most cases, we actually do it that way. So we just make a variation, but that also depends on the category, because the variations are different in different categories, and not all categories even have this variation option. So typically we want to make it as a variation, and so we can utilize the old listing and so on.
Okay. This makes a lot of sense. So it's a bit of a guerrilla tactic, right? So let's go with something, let's figure out how the market reacts, and then once we know there's an opportunity there, then we can put more effort. So would you be comfortable giving us some budgets? I mean, we don't need to know your budgets, but for a test launch like this, how much, because this is going to cost you money at the end of the day. You're not going to make money here. You may generate sales, but you're going to buy the product at a higher cost, so your margin will be less. You're going to pay the Amazon fees. You're going to pay some advertising. So what is a typical test launch budget for you?
So I can say, like previously, before with this traditional approach, it's going to cost like thousands and thousands of dollars in order to get the products, the real launch. But for doing these kind of like quick tests and quickly taking a product idea to the marketplace, that's going to be just some hundreds of dollars, because we are not going to be having that many units. So it's, in any case, it's going to be less than $1,000.
Okay, so on the purchase of the product, yes. So if you're selling something for $30, ordinarily you would want about 30% of that on the product cost. But let's assume that you're going to spend more money because you're having it done locally. So let's say that you buy, devil's advocate, $20 a piece. So if you buy 50 pieces, that's $1,000, right? So you're going to launch with 50 pieces. So that's fine, but then you have to run advertising campaign, right? So you still run the PPC campaign to drive some traffic to the listing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the ways how you can like quickly get eyeballs to your listing, right? Just start PPC and start getting sales. So that's something to consider, that there needs to be a bit of budget for running the advertising as well.
Yeah. And what is your test budget for something like this typically?
But I wouldn't necessarily even go with like 50 units. You can just go lower than that. Just like make sure that $1,000 itself like covers the advertising as well.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't get you much. And especially in, as we record this in 2023, January, PPC costs are up and everything is up. So if you are picking the keywords that has a reasonable bid, but to drive enough traffic, typically we tell all our clients, if you're launching something today, be prepared to spend about $5,000 a month. So what is your take on that?
So that's one of the key criteria also for what makes a good product opportunity. Because if the advertising cost are high, then I mean it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be much more difficult to get that initial traction. So one criteria is really like, what are the advertising costs? So if the PPC is really high, then I mean it's even though if it might look like okay, I mean there's enough demand and not too much competition, but I mean the advertising cost is just to the roof. So I mean it's going to be difficult in order to like get the initial traction and start really growing sales.
Okay. Well, I mean, you really have a lot of things to look for. So you're looking for keywords that have less than 300 competing listings, $30 price range, category wide, could be any category. And also those keywords shouldn't be costing much in bids. So that's quite an ocean to go jump in to find the kind of product that would be an opportunity for you. So how do you manage that?
Yes, but I can also say that we just had, I mean, we have been doing this since 2014, so we have a lot of experience on this, but we are also like teaching our team members, our VAs to do this. And we just had an experience that we like hired a new VA and he had zero experience on selling on Amazon or anything like this. So we just gave him training on this method and gave the specific criteria. And I mean, even he was like able to find these different opportunities. So I wouldn't say that it's like such a huge effort to find. I mean, if you really know what you're doing. So it's all about like understanding how Amazon works and understanding the criteria and really reading the data in the right way.
Okay, so share with us a little bit more so that listeners can learn. And by the way, you say that you teach this methodology, right? So when I introduced you, I mentioned freedom hackers. So I guess this is part of the curriculum that you teach in your course.
Yes, absolutely. And we also are running this like 5-day challenge, which is called the viral product challenge, which is all about like finding these different like product ideas in this like low risk, low budget method. And the funny thing is that this new VA that we had hired, I mean, we gave him a task that, okay, just find us some product ideas that we can also show during this challenge. And like in a week, he was able to come up with like 15 different ideas, and which were really like matching the criteria and were really like good opportunities to tap on.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit more about your approach, because I want the listeners to get a good idea on the criteria. So price around $30, about 300 competing listings, and not too many reviews. So obviously, if you are targeting less than 300, you are avoiding that saturated space because you're not going to see so many. And you want lower number of reviews. What else are you looking at?
So what we are looking for is, well, let's say that, okay, we find this different thing and we get the data that pretty much that these different tools builds out. Then, I mean, it comes out also to that how easy is it to test out this idea? Like how can we differentiate and how can we also like add value? Because if you are not able to provide something more that the market already has, it's not gonna be like long-term solution then.
Okay, so out of the existing listings that sell at certain price point, you're looking to offer more than what others are doing. So, for example, somebody may be selling a single unit, and you may have an add-on, and then you create a bundle. Is that one way for you to offer more value?
Well, that's one way. Well, typically we are not like creating new listings or add-ons. It's more about that what can we add to the actual product. And and the price point is, I mean, $30 is usually the minimum. So it can be more than that. I mean, it all depends on like what the big picture looks like. Like it could be like $50 or something like this. But typically we think of value in such a way that like when a customer like receives these products on their hands, then what else do they need besides just I mean besides what the competitors are already giving? So in some cases it could mean that we add some like smaller like additional like smaller product to the actual product packaging, or it can be like another things. But the key thing that we also always want to do with like every single listing that we have is that we want to like educate the customer and also like provide value to the customer with the product listing itself. And sometimes it means that you do certain things in the product images that like educates and like helps the customers to understand that, okay, why do they actually need this product in question, and what kind of value, what kind of impact does it have in their lives?
I see. So what I'm hearing is also the content of what is out there. So all the listings that are there out of that X number of competing listings you have, you studying those listings to see if their content is, it can be better. Can you provide a better content to educate the buyers and then provide more information and things like that? So you're looking for gaps like that. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. And when thinking about these like different product opportunities, different like keywords and so on, then one thing we also like keep a close eye on are different like newcomers. If we see that, hey, there's a new seller that is doing like really big volume with certain products, then okay, what's going on there? Like they have been only certain period of time, then I mean what are specifically that they are doing in order, I mean, in order to get that volume?
Okay, so what is better, having so many newcomers or less number of newcomers?
Well, I mean, typically less,
Yeah.
because it usually means that there's just kind of coming more and more and more.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously that's the conventional thing, but you know what they say, if there is no competition in a space, that usually means there is no market for it. So if there is competition, that means there's good enough market. So if you don't have too many new listings coming in, wouldn't you take that as maybe there isn't much interest in that kind of product? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. So I mean, usually if we consider like that the advertising cost is not to the roof, I mean that there's the PPC is not too high, then I mean when you have margins, then you can pretty much like create this demand for the product, like as long as there's like demand for this keyword, meaning that our product like matches the keyword. So sometimes it might be that I mean, let's say that if there's two different scenarios, like one scenario is that, I mean, it's completely saturated and there's high demand but also high competition, let's say, and then let's consider the other option that, okay, it would be low demand and low competition. then I mean, which one would you choose if you only have those two options on Amazon? Let's say like as long as there's like enough profit margin with the product and the advertising cost is not too high, then I would definitely choose the low demand, low competition, because then you have the budget to advertise, and you are able to like you are able to create that demand as well.
Yeah. So the other thing is, what is today is only valid for today. Tomorrow, you never know. I mean, today you may see a low demand, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay the same. I remember this experience I had. This is a long time ago when I was an Amazon seller myself. One of the shareholders in my company came to me with an idea. He said, listen, I got the distribution rights for these player cards. You know, it's like the baseball cards, different players, but this was for the World Cup. Yeah. And, you know, in America, World Cup is not really very popular. Well, it's getting more and more popular now, but nevertheless, it's nowhere near basketball, American football. So he said, what do you think we could sell these on Amazon? I said, listen, you got the distribution rights. It doesn't hurt to try. Let me do some research. So I do research, and there is almost no demand. So, you know, because it's soccer, you know, they don't really. Plus, it's World Cup months away, and so he says I can get real good deals, and I said, listen, we're going to do this no matter what. I said, the data does not really show me really a lot of demand, but go for it, and then we'll launch it. Well, guess what? That thing went through the roof because, first of all, World Cup started. Once the World Cup starts, then everything picked up. In addition, the company who had the intellectual property rights, they started marketing this all over the place. So we had to come up with different bundles, so we ended up, they were selling basically the cards and the album. That's all you could buy directly from the distributor, but we created bundles and packs and you name it. We kind of had many different ways to sell it, and it just went through the roof. So sometimes data does not tell you everything, right? It can change because it's only looking backward and it's looking at today.
Exactly. Data doesn't tell you everything, so that's why you need to like use your brains when you look at the information and really see what's going on like in the market. And that was a like good case of how important timing is. So something might be good today and it's not going to be good tomorrow anymore. And when that's the reality, then I mean we should get our time to market as short as possible, because that way we are just able to test out test out ideas as quickly as possible. And it's also like forces us to be more creative and constantly innovate when we are just assuming that, I mean, whatever works today is not going to be working tomorrow. So we have to be creative and innovatively like look into different opportunities like all the time.
Yeah. So on this subject, there is one somewhat of a I don't want to say danger, but still it has to be part of your consideration. So let's say that you did your test marketing, you got good results, and you say, okay, fine, there's an opportunity here. Let's now go ahead with the master program. So you then start building your manufacturing, your content, all the images, the videos, and you name it. So that will still take time. Even though you did a test and you have some data, you still have to do the right way, which will take time. But by the time you launch it, Now suddenly it's a different time. So do you ever experience that the demand that was there on the test marketing is no longer there, or keywords have become much more competitive?
Not really, but let's say that if it becomes really competitive and there's a lot of new sellers like pop up, then I mean, then we still we still have the listing that we be basically like building up for these like past months before we actually got our like real launch. So then we can basically tap on to the foundation that the test product like build. And it also means that when we are launching a test product and when we like sell everything, then we're just going to be like ordering more and more. And if it still looks good, then we're just doing all those incremental like improvements, and finally we get to the like relaunch.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying because we did the test, we are already ahead in the game. So you just simply building that up as well as the new one, if they can go side by side. I understand. So this was great. I mean, I talk to different people all the time, and this is an interesting approach that can be tried. And I can see the value in it because it's quick, right? So that's the biggest advantage of it. It's quick. You quickly find out if you're gonna do anything. The strength, though, has to be on your research, because you have to really know what you're doing. Otherwise, you can come up with stuff that may never be, you could never really source the product, or it may not be feasible to do. So this is great. So Toni, share with us also how you structure your operation. So describe the team. So what are the roles in your team to build an operation?
Yes, so if I think about like how to build a like Amazon team, then there are different roles that I would definitely, I mean, we already have a team and that's been running for like many years, but I get this question a lot that, okay, if I want to build a team, then what are the different roles that I need? And I would say that first thing like that really helps things is having this like virtual assistant, like research focused virtual assistant, and the responsibility of that person is just to help you to launch these products. So just basically being like a second pair of hands in order to get things faster. So you can launch products faster, and you get research faster, and you get like data faster as well. Then another important aspect on Amazon, especially nowadays, is like advertising. So there needs to be someone who understands how PPC works, because I mean that's an important part of the launch, and it's a really important part in getting like not only like ranking but like growing products as well. Then third role I would say is having this like product line owner, and this person is responsible for doing different experiments on the product. So this person is pretty much like responsible for certain products. So if we can like consider it as this like you have launched your baby, then the product line owner is the nanny who's taking care of your baby. So making sure that everything is well, like that the baby grows nicely to a toddler and so on. And next, I would say that really important thing is then the like sourcing aids, and or someone like who would do this kind of sourcing of the products, making sure of quality insurance and logistics and everything related with like supply chain management and inventory management.
How about analytics?
Well, what we prefer to do is that, I mean, we want to have like more like certain type of people like who are analytical in their approach. So that could also mean that it's this research person who is really analytical and data driven, so that this person is able to like figure out different data and also knows how to read that data.
Mhm. And your demand planning, inventory and demand and FBA operations, who usually does that?
So that's the person dealing with the supply chain. So that would be the sourcing
I see.
agent. So that person is responsible in making sure that you don't run out of stock, and like everything is good quality, and like having the best prices as well. So meaning this is like the person in China, like as like we are sourcing most of our products in China. So I mean, that's the person, local person who understands the culture and understands working with suppliers and so on.
And also that same person will make sure that there is enough inventory at FBA facility so that there is continuity in sales and then replenish and things like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. This was great, Toni. You started very slow, but you built a whole concept around your approach and the team. So I'm sure that our listeners will benefit greatly. So let's learn a little bit about you. Tell us, where did you grow up? How did you get to be where you are today?
Yes, so I'm Finnish, so I'm originally from Finland, but I've lived in different parts of the world, like in Philippines and lived in California nowadays. So I've been basically living in different parts of the world and also experiencing this like digital nomad. But I think like one important or like a kind of like life-changing event for me was because I mean previously I was in the corporate world in this software development like online gaming world. So I spent like something like 10 years in that corporate world, and but suddenly I mean I lost my job. So I thought that I had this like safe security and thing, and then boom, I mean suddenly it's over. So it kind of like shows that I mean salary doesn't mean that I mean it's like secure. So before that, I mean I had been already thinking about like building a business for many years, but I hadn't really like done anything about it. So the funny thing is like it was kind of like the life's way of forcing me to come on, like finally start a business that finally take all those ideas and do something about it. Because what one interesting timing was that I mean we just had a like baby on the way at the same time that I was fired. So it created this like good kind of pressure and good kind of momentum that, hey, I mean, this is the right time. This is the time to finally start a business and make things happen.
In your family growing up, were they your parents? Were they business people or were they just career people at work somewhere?
Yeah, no, not at all. So I don't really have like prior experience with entrepreneurship. So, and everyone, pretty much most of the people around me, I mean, were working in different like corporate jobs. So that, and I remember like also like when I got my like when I entered that world as well, like the whole atmosphere in that corporate world is that I mean you get your job and then you like stick to it, and like just jumping to the entrepreneurship felt really that I mean it's really a huge gap and it's a huge risk and so on. But I realized now that I'm the biggest risk is just staying there and pretty much like doing nothing, because then it might end up that I mean you never get to really live the life that you really want to have, and the ideas that you have, then I mean nothing's going to come out of those ideas.
So I mean I cannot imagine. So you really had no prior life experience of what it's like to be building your own business. And you had this sense of security of having a job, having a salary, and you're living your life that way. And you start a family. When I say family, you get married. So you're moving in one direction and you have a baby, and then suddenly the life changes overnight, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
having a baby itself already an overnight change. And then at the same time, you lose your job. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it was a really big shock because, you know, it felt I had this sense of security, and it felt like, oops, okay. I mean, oh my God, like how could this happen? How could I end up in this situation that, like, suddenly, like, I lose my job at the worst possible timing, because this is the time that you need to have security when you get a baby, and it also means that I'm going to have to spend more time with my family. So if I don't have security, if I don't have any income, and if I don't have any ability to provide for my family and also like spend time with my family, yeah, I mean, that was really scary time.
So how did your wife react to this situation?
Oh my God. Yeah, she was shocked as well that, oh, how did this happen? So
And
yeah,
hold on, I have a better question. So out of all this, you got this life-changing event, and then you decide, I'm going to start my own business, right?
exactly. Yeah.
And was it like an immediate decision, or did you try to find another job, and then in the process, you know what, I better do my own thing? Or what was it? Which one? Quick or after a while?
Well, I mean, okay. First thing when I heard like I lose my job, then like the first thought that came to my mind that, oh no, I need to find a new job like as quickly as possible. But eventually, I mean, pretty quickly, I started thinking, hey, I mean, why don't I finally start the business that I've been thinking about for years? So I've been just thinking and thinking, but not really done anything like concrete in the like to get this to really build a business.
And how did your wife react to you deciding to start your own business? Because that's the other half of the equation, right? Because you need support.
Yeah, and her response was the typical thing that, no, just get a job as quickly as possible. It's so risky to start a business, and you know, the usual thing.
Well, what does she feel now?
She's so happy because, I mean, this business has given us the opportunity to live in different countries and travel the world, and giving me the ability to spend more family time, and really having the finances to like really do the things that we want to do.
Yeah. You know, I have a funny story. So, you know, they're making these Star Wars movies, the new Star Wars movies. So they have a lot of new guys coming in, new young guys coming in. So one of the guys, one of the young ones in the new movies, always wanted to be an actor. And of course, her parents just didn't want that, because it's very hard to be an actor and then make a living. It's a long struggle. And so his parents were asking, you know, why don't you go get a real job instead of chasing after this acting dream? So anyway, so he gets one of the top roles in one of the Star Wars movies, and then calls his mother up, says, hey, Mom, I got great news. I finally got this acting job in Star Wars in this role, and now everybody is going to know me. And she goes, oh, that's great. Does that mean now you can get a job much easier?
Yeah, funny.
So, you know, it's very hard life being an entrepreneur and starting something from nothing. And the only thing you have is your convictions, and there's nothing to touch and feel. there's little money or no money usually. So it's a tough thing to really believe in. So it takes a special effort. This was great, Toni. I mean, you've definitely inspired me. I mean, I love this kind of stories. Fortunately, I've never been in a situation that you were in. I've been in different situations, but I know what it's like for your life to change overnight and then to make it through. So you've obviously done a great job. This was great. So share with us your contact information, but I want especially our listeners to find out how they can get to your Freedom Hackers program.
Yeah, so there's several ways, and one thing that we are going to be doing are these like 5-day product viral product challenges where we pretty much like teach this whole method. So this is completely free to join, and right now we are having it on our Facebook group. So we can add a link here, so you can anyone is free to join the group and join the 5-day event as soon as we have the next one. And I would actually also like to share one document that really has been I say it's like the foundation for all like the success of our products, and it's been really foundation for our students. Like one student just made an 8-figure exit, and he said that, I mean, this document is the foundation for him in building everything for his product. So this document is what we call the perfect product blueprint, and I'm happy to share this document with your audience.
Yes, so send us your document and the information about how people can join that viral 5-day viral launch program and your Freedom Hackers program. It will be all part of your episode, so we will post it and people can get to it. This was great, Toni. Thank you very much. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Nick. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thank you. And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure and subscribe, rate, and review our show. And be sure and share an episode with a friend. And thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you next week here on Amazon Legends.